The Swami, the CEO, and the stock exchange. Perhaps one of the biggest stories of possible financial fraud has hit the National Stock Exchange, India's largest stock exchange and repository of millions and billions of investor wealth. So, what is this story all about and why has it hit the headlines? I'm going to attempt to explain it all to you as simply as possible. So, the story came to light, first of all, on the 11th of February when the SEBI put out an order of 190 pages with directions against Chitra Ramakrishna, the former MD and CEO of the National Stock Exchange, as well as Anand Subramaniam, the former COO of the National Stock Exchange as well, and other important personnel at that time. The period they're talking about is between 2012 and 2016. The basic charge here is that during this period, Chitra Ramakrishna, as the MD and CEO of the National Stock Exchange, was deciding on very important internal matters, including promotions, who should be paid what, and organizational structure on the instructions of a Swami that emailed her with what to do. Now, this Swami, when Chitra Ramakrishna was asked who he is in the course of investigation, she says he has no physical coordinates. He is a spiritual force who can manifest at will anywhere and anytime, and he has been my spiritual guide for the last 20 years. Now, how much information was this Swami, or this Paramhans, as she refers to him, she calls him a Siddha Purush. How much information did he have? He knew everything. Intricate details of what is happening in the National Stock Exchange, things like their 5-year financial projections, their dividend ratios, their agendas for their board meetings, and including who has to be hired at how much salary and who has to be promoted. So these were very crucial matters on which Chitra Ramakrishna was being advised on by this Swami. Now, part of the advice that this Swami, this force, the spiritual force, seems to have given Mr. Ramakrishnan was to hire one Mr. Anand Subramanian as a key advisor and consultant to her as MD and CEO. And this is where the story really gets interesting, because Mr. Subramanian, before being brought on board on the National Stock Exchange, was a mid-level executive working in a subsidiary of a PSU called Balmer and Lorry. His salary at that time was about 15 lakh rupees a year. He was first brought on board on the National Stock Exchange in the role of an advisor to Chitra Ramakrishnan at a salary of over 1 crore rupees, over 1.5 crore rupees. And in fact, over his tenure of a few years, he finally had to step down in 2016. By that time, he was being paid more than 4.2 crore rupees annually. Now, initially when he came on this exorbitant salary, and SEBI has shown in his order that other consultants who were hired that year weren't paid anything as close. He didn't have any experience on the job, didn't have any background on finance. The HR of NSE had not received any documentation of his. Being brought on board was not even on the records. And he had to work only 4 days a week. It was not clear what he was supposed to do, but he kept getting A+ ratings every year from Chitra Ramakrishnan, who he used to report to, and massive increments, more than anyone else. His involvement in the company and his role in the company was also guided by this spiritual force, by this Swami, who goes to the extent of instructing Chitra Ramakrishnan, who was then the MD and CEO, of how much his salary should be increased, that his work days should be increased from 4 to 5 on paper, so that his big hike in salary to about 3 crore an annum can be justified, but he should come to office only for 3 days a week. The rest he can do whatever he wants. Clear, precise instructions such as that if he were to travel internationally, he should be given first class seats. Domestically, it has to be business class seats. All of this was instructed by the Swami. In fact, this guru also goes on to say that the additional salary that Mr. Subramaniam will now get should be given to the guru as gratitude. And all of these instructions are followed by Chitra Ramakrishnan to the letter, where Mr. Subramaniam keeps increasing his role within the organization. It comes to a stage where he is second only to MD and CEO, and the crucial heads of the National Stock Exchange are now reporting to Mr. Subramaniam. All of this has been instructed by the Swami. The Swami is also telling Chitra Ramakrishna how to designate Mr. Subramaniam so that he is not shown as a key managerial personnel, because a key managerial personnel has to be reported to SEBI, their salaries have to be reported, and their role has to be cleared. So his designation is structured in such a way that all of this does not come out in the public. He has the power, but is kept under the wraps. And in this way, through Mr. Subramaniam and through the Swami's instructions, Chitra Ramakrishna can take decisions which will actually decide how the National Stock Exchange is run. It's an alarming set of allegations that have been made. So because of this, SEBI fined these people, they've put penalties in place, but this is just the beginning of the whole saga, because the mystery remains. Who is this Paramhans? Who is this Siddha Purush, and who is this Swami? So the National Stock Exchange, when it got to know that SEBI is asking all of these questions, hired EY to conduct a forensic investigation. And EY in its forensic investigation says that they think the Swami and Anand Subramaniam are one and the same person. And through this special email ID, Anand Subramaniam was manipulating Chitra Ramakrishna and getting to do things which were in his favor. Now, NSE has also concurred with this and wants to take this line, because on the basis of this they say that, listen, your allegation that our MD and CEO at that time was giving very sensitive information to an outsider is incorrect, because if Swamiji and Anand Subramanian, her consultant, are the one and same person, then she's actually sharing facts internally itself and not to an outsider. These are facts that Mr. Subramaniam in his capacity would already be privy to. But Chitra Ramakrishnan does not think they are the same person. She in fact goes on record to tell SEBI that they are not the same person, they are different entities, and she's known this person for the last 20 years. Now, what exactly was the nature of the relationship between the Swami and Chitra? Chitra says he's her spiritual guide, her spiritual force, her guru. She has been taking instructions from him on life decisions for the last 20 years. But there are no physical coordinates. SEBI says this seems unlikely because in part of the mails, this person, this unknown entity, is talking to Chitra about a holiday to Seychelles. He's asking her to join. He's asking her, do you know how to swim? So we can enjoy a sea bath in Seychelles. On another occasion, he emails to her saying, you are looking awesome. You should wear your plait in different ways so you can look young. So there's definitely a very close relationship over there. Now, one doesn't want to speculate what the nature of that relationship was, but Chitra Ramakrishna does not think Swamiji and Anand Subramaniam are one and the same person. Anand Subramaniam is denying this as well, and SEBI is not too convinced. They still are not buying that theory that it's one and the same person, and hence have leveled the allegation that Chitra Ramakrishna completely, broke the rules of what her job entailed and gave very, very sensitive information to an outsider, something that could be misused massively. It's perhaps one of the most sordid tales to hit the Indian financial market, because the question is arising whether it was a Swami who was directing all of these important decisions, and what was in it for him. Who is he? What did he gain from it? Who is this Anand Subramanian who came on the scene and suddenly got all of these, huge pay packets with no qualifications at all? The bigger question, what was National Stock Exchange doing? What was their board of directors doing? What were public interest directors doing? And why did they allow Chitra Ramakrishna to get away with all of this while they were watching this before their eyes? Are they now trying to cover up all of this corporate misgovernance? And if they knew this, Why did they allow Chitra Ramakrishnan to quietly resign when all of this was coming to light and SEBI was asking questions? They let her resign. They gave her over $1.5 crore as extra payments, and they wrote her glowing letters saying that she had really contributed so much to the National Stock Exchange. So it is raising questions on all ends, and it is a mess. The saga, the investigation has only just begun.